Good morning, my name is Humberto Gutierrez, and it is a pleasure to introduce my team, which is made up of Fernanda Achach, Enrique Canul, Gloria Guerrero, Alan Estrella, and
Eric Alfaro.
And we are going to talk about the fine arts in China. Chinese culture is very old. This means that their customs and traditions and ideology are ancient and have passed through generations. And during this time, they developed a lot of kinds of art, like traditional dances, along with typical music, peculiar instruments, poetry from stories, plays representing great moments in the story, and the unique architecture from this region of world.
Traditional music in China is different from wrestling. Music is a rhythm, beat and tones, ties. Apart from is important of China's culture, because the originals of Chinese music and background is great, aristocratic and popular, and traditional instruments used to make melodies date back 2,000 years. The look is of the most apparent instruments by Toisins during the Tang Dynasty. Current, the most used instruments are the gongs, the pipa, and the king guitar with 7 strings. The legendary creator of music and song, according to China's mythology, was Shinifu, who made bamboo kites so that they sounded like birds.
Well, my team is the Chinese theater. The theater is a collaborative form of performing art that uses live performance, usually actors or actresses, to present the experience of a real or imagined event before a live audience in a specific place, often a stage. The performers may communicate this experience to the audience through a combination of gesture, speech, song, music, and dance. The Chinese theater, it's impossible to say exactly when the Chinese theater came into being, since almost all kinds of performing arts in China, whether it was circus, musical or dance performance, were accompanied by theatricalities. However, the first full-fledged dramatic presentation in China dated back to the 12th and 14th centuries. Gradually, the Chinese theater began to develop separate areas for performance were beginning to be established. Troupes and performers on permanent basis began to be created. The 14th to 17th centuries marked the beginning of the heyday of Chinese theater, which had two main areas. The traditional Chinese theater plays often lasted for hours, with the audience combining the actors' intention with tea and conversation. The costumes are almost invariably very expensive and luxurious, as well as the masks and makeup of limitless imagination. Some examples of very famous people or actors in this topic was Tang Xiansu. Was a great poet and playwright to the Ming Dynasty. Among his plays, the Pavilion of the Pioneers is one of them. It stands out from the others for the lyricisms and comic elements, and the creation of this male lead. Another, for example, is Du Lianyang, who became the quintessential romantic heroine. In the Yuan dynasty, the best plays has been written by Guan Hangning, Yi Shunxiang, and Wang Shifu shows the first in this genre in 13th century in China.
China has a unique architecture tradition dating back to the zoo area 2,500 years ago. The wooden construction was the most common architecture style for imperial and communal dynasty residents. But it was not the only traditional style, like Tubuli towers, mausoleums, and other types of architecture, and they're basically made by bricks and stones. The various styles of Chinese architecture that have been built since in zoo area and reflect how the various Chinese over the centuries adapted to environment. And architecture designs suits the need, the culture, and also help propagating social norms and order. The best known and recognized construction of Chinese culture is the Great Wall of China. Basically, is structure considered to a long wall and clay with impact of sands and covered with Syria brick wall to make it its most resistant. The most used technique for making the wall was make a wooden skeleton that filled with layers of air and one on top of the other, and that's all.
China's literature is one of the oldest in the world. It is usually full of details and drama, and at the same time reflects all the contrasts of the same country. The antiquity of China's literature spans nearly 3 millennia. China's texts are characterized by simplicity, prose, and poetry. For years, China's storytelling served as an outlet to tell and capture the story of a changing nation. According to historical data, the first scenes of China's literature were stone carving and torture shells. All this happened during the China's Shang dynasty between the 18th and 12th centuries. Until now, this fact represents the beginning of what is now considered one of the most solid and historical literatures in the world.
Do you think art is important in a culture? Why? Yes, because every culture is appreciated for the art that it was originated. They bring with them various artistic representation the people make to express their emotions and ideas in a creative way. Art in a culture can be a tool that can change our education and society, in cause art can bring peace, happiness, love, hope to the people. And China culture art is varied and diverse signs they dependent on dynasty, age, and contribution to art. And the country of China has been ruled by many different dynasties throughout time. That the Tang Dynasty, the Qing Dynasty, the Han Dynasty, and the Song Dynasty all made their own contribution to the ancient China art, and each dynasty had its own styles, which evolved over time. China art is highly influenced by the country-rich spiritual and mystical stories. The ancient China using paintings, dyeings, brushes, papers, stones, bronze, copper, gold, silver, gel, clay, and other materials fall in a nature to the creative fine arts.
The truth is that I don't know much of Eastern history, but to tell you the truth, I am very curious about China's culture, both because of its way of speaking and its different way of speaking, as well as its sculptures and temples, as well as historical sites and characteristic characters. It is very intriguing and different from what I used to hear about the legends of Mexico. It is true that Japan also caught my attention because of its culture, but I feel that I would like to know the Chinese culture more than the Japanese.
I would like to live in the China culture because their culture is very specific, and the light and their paintings, their music, and their literature are of great entertainment and mythological story of mystical think that contributed to what they create. They have different techniques and work with different materials and with different instruments, which make me incredible. The way of expressing their cultural talent, the finance, and especially because the story of how the art has been changing depending on the dynasties over time, and how they contributed a lot of Taiwan in the finance.
And for me, Chinese culture is one of the most impressive cultures. From these structures to its music. But I don't agree with everything because so far it's the politic are not the very good. And as each country has its negative and positive things, but I really would not like to belong to a culture where many aspects that we concretely know are incorrect continue to use it, and that's why I think I don't like very much China, but for the other way, I like their culture, The people, it's not very nice, I think, but I don't know. I prefer stay in my country, and I love my traditions.